Hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope you are well and thank you for visiting. If you would like to support the channel, links to my children's books are available in the description below. As an artist myself, I want to cover many aspects of culture on my channel and art is one of them. Today I want to introduce you to one of my favourite artists. I first learned about him in school and he's stuck with me as an influence ever since. It's a strange world, isn't it? Art influences us every day to a massive degree, and yet the average person is rarely engaged directly with it. There's art in absolutely everything you consume. We all desire beautiful things, and despite being a huge part of our lives, its use goes unnoticed by most. I hope to create a series of videos introducing you to great artists you may be unfamiliar with. However, you will certainly have felt their cultural influence. If I were to be asked which artist encapsulates the feeling of riding, then I would suggest John Martin. The act of riding is one of drama. Propelled by thunder and fire, you flirt with death while being part of something much grander. Insignificant and mortal in a large landscape, this is something his art perfectly encapsulates. John Martin was born in 1789 in the north of England to a very poor family. His life was full of dramatic events, mental illness and chaos, which is typical of most artists' lives. I do suggest you delve into his life story as it has a profound influence on his work. Today I want to focus more on his art and explain why I think it perfectly encapsulates the feeling of riding. Known as the apocalypse artist, his work has strong theological themes, but his real talent was portraying scale and drama. His compositions focused on grand-scale scenes with tiny people, the epic scale of nature, and stunning dramatic light. He could handle the translucence of light like few others. It takes great skill to capture scale and light, and as a rider, stunning landscapes with beautiful lighting are something you will be very familiar with. As a rider, often you will round a corner or crest a hill to be confronted with breathtaking scenery. This can momentarily overwhelm you, and I feel his art perfectly encompasses this feeling. It's a work that romanticizes the scale of God and your own significance. Someone once said that in a car you're viewing the landscape, but as a rider you feel part of it. On a bike you're not enclosed in a box behind windows, so you can immediately feel the scale and atmosphere of a place. I think his work closely captures this feeling. Allegedly, women would faint when confronted with the sublime scale and beauty of his work. Fainting at art seems ridiculous to us now, but our media has conditioned us to epic imagery, so we are used to it. In the era he lived, exposure to this kind of imagery would be very different to us now, and this makes his work all that more impressive as photography and cinema hadn't even been started yet. The human mind loves to witness epic drama. But as you're ever more exposed to it, your bar for what impresses you raises. I for one remember as a kid the opening of Star Wars in the cinema and being overwhelmed by the spectacle. Nowadays it does seem relatively tame to the media we encounter every day. True spectacle is something that is becoming ever rarer, and social media often represents just terrible spectacle. Let's have a look at some of his key paintings and talk about them. The Great Day of His Wrath, it's probably his most famous work. With a strong apocalypse theme, it always reminds me of those moments just after a storm when the sky is full of large, dark, oppressive clouds and the lighting is dramatic. Joshua commanding the sun to stand still. With a dramatic sky and a road snaking off towards a mountainous horizon, I am sure many have come across similar scenes while riding. Note the tiny figures to enhance the scale. It also captures that dark, ominous, brooding sky that always tells us to get the waterproofs on. The destruction of Pompeii. Anyone riding during a sunrise will be familiar with this kind of lighting. It bathes the landscape in fire of red and orange. Tiny figures give a sense of scale as the landscape unfolds towards a glowing sky. The plains of heaven. This seems to perfectly encompass those summer days of riding in the mountains. Lush and bright, the large mountains as silhouettes emerging from the haze. Beautiful greens, umbers and browns. It looks not unlike riding in the Scottish Highlands on a beautiful day. The Bard, a single finger against the tall landscape of mountains and castles. Riders in Europe will be very familiar with being alone against such a backdrop. The feeling of being tiny in such a huge place, but also the castle on the horizon encouraging further exploration. The feeling of ongoing travel and adventure. John Martin has many such works. I have just picked out a few examples to pique your interest. I am curious to understand if you get the same feelings I do when you see them, and how it compares to the experience of riding. I often feel the urge to go on a long ride when I look at his art. They encourage me to adventure and explore. John Martin wasn't just a painter, however. His effect on the general culture cannot be underestimated. He is credited with being an artist with one of the biggest influences on Hollywood cinema. Sets and visual effects all owe an influence to him. If you view his work, it's easy to see how many blockbuster movies carry his influence, especially in the sci-fi or apocalyptic genres. His influence started from the earliest days of cinema and carried through to the most recent blockbusters. Ray Harryhausen cited him as a key influence, and you can feel his influence in most epic movies. Architecture was inspired by him. He actually worked on many large-scale infrastructure and engineering works, including the development of London's sewage system. His grandiose paintings of ancient architecture holds an influence in architecture even to this day. The flourish of beauty and scale, added to many large architectural plans, has its roots with his work. In modern times, he's also cited as a key influence on the Warhammer universe. His portrayal of civilization, scale and destruction has been a major influence in most modern sci-fi, and this is no exception. Humans are deeply drawn to the beauty of destruction and apocalypse, and media companies know this and incorporate it into what they produce. The video game industry owes a huge debt to him. You can see his influence in the concept art for many blockbuster games. Be those alien worlds or more grounded games, his influence is always present. Album art, in particular the genre of heavy metal, owes a great deal to him. The themes of metal often tie into the apocalyptic or the spiritual, so his work is always a key influence. Often the metal section of a record shop looks like a John Martin gallery. I love how his work communicates how small you are. It's the beauty of scale and chaos. A hint of drama and adventure, the divine and spiritual together, and a calling to something much larger, be that nature or God. This is why I think he is the perfect painter for me, summing up all of those riding experiences. He was an extremely prolific artist, and many galleries all over the world hold some of his work. His original cottage is in Haydon Bridge in the north of England, ironically a beautiful place to ride a bike. If you discover work near you, then I suggest you take a ride one day to pay homage to an artist who has influenced much of what we love today. An artist who to me seemed to perfectly encapsulate what it was to ride a motorcycle many years before they were even invented. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If there's any artists that have influenced you, please share in the description below. Thank you so much, and bye bye!